Every morning in SEAL training, my instructors, who at the time were all Vietnam veterans, would show up in my barracks room, and the first thing they'd do was inspect my bed. If you did it right, the corners would be square, the covers would be pulled tight, the pillow centered just under the headboard, and the extra blanket folded neatly at the foot of the rack. It was a simple task, mundane at best, but every morning we were required to make our bed to perfection. It seemed a little ridiculous at the time, particularly in light of the fact that we were aspiring to be real warriors, tough, battle-hardened SEALs. But the wisdom of this simple act has been proven to me many times over. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task, and another, and another. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. And if by chance you have a miserable day, you will come home to a bed that is made. And a made bed gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be better. So if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed.
My lack of interest in complaining is so high, and when I watch what people complain about, it breaks my heart because they completely lack perspective. And I genuinely believe my happiness and optimism comes from my perspective. Even in political unrest times like right now, a lot of people are very bent out of shape, but the reality is that it's just never been better to be a human being. That's just the truth, that's just data, that's reality. To me, life is broken down into complaining and not. So if you're not complaining, well then I have no advice for you. I'm pumped. Like, you did it. Like I have friends who make $42,000 a year, work 9 to 4, kind of, with an hour and a half lunch and 45 minutes of YouTube and 10 minutes of bullshitting and an hour of complete wasted time in a meeting. So they're kind of working like 6 hours a week, right? But they're pumped. Right. And they text me, these are high school friends, and they'll text me like how happy they are to be the coach of their kids' baseball team. And like, that's amazing. Like that seems very obvious to me. It sounds cool, like in theory, right? Grass is always greener, right? Like far less pressure, like all that time with my kids, oof, that would be cool. Like there's just like all these things that I can justify. So to me, but I have friends who have $100 million in the bank because of Facebook's IPO, who complain, who are still hungry, who want to do even more, who will complain to me because they know I work a lot about no work-life balance and they don't get to spend enough time with their family. And I'm like, you have $100 million. Like, you could stay home. Like, you're in control. Like, don't complain about it. You've made that choice. Don't bullshit me. Like, you want to spend more time with your family? Spend more time with your family. This is back to what we said about keyboard warriors. I'm trying to be very careful about what I'm saying versus what I'm doing, because that's how you get exposed. And I don't mean like people calling you out and being like, you suck. I mean to yourself. There's so many people that are talking shit about how big of an entrepreneur they're gonna be and how much they're gonna achieve, and they don't work on weekends. I worked every Saturday of my 20s. So like, before you tell me how you're gonna be bigger than me, start thinking about what you're actually doing. There's a lot of push towards being a workaholic, and hard work is a learned behavior. I see it in my team. There's people that come into I've seen it in the thousands of employees I've had, which is the closer they are to the sun, the harder they work. And so I definitely feel like I learned hard work by watching my parents. It's why I talk so much about hustle. I watch people give advice completely predicated on natural talent and DNA, and I'm like, look, like, I get it, like I can throw a football every day for 9 hours a day. I'm just not physically built to be competitive at the highest levels. Like, you're gonna only be so pretty, you're only gonna be so smart. There's things that are gonna be natural, and then there's things that you can actually control. But I do believe that work ethic is a taught behavior. It's something you do have more control over.
Make voluntary obligations. All right, mom and dad, since we were young, they teach us things as children. Teachers, mentors, the government, and on laws, they all give us guidelines for which to navigate this life. Rules to abide by in the name of accountability. I'm talking about the ones that we make with ourselves, with our own consciousness. I'm talking about the you versus you obligations. We have to have them. These are not the lowered insurance rates for a good driving record. You will not be fined or put in jail if you do not gratify these obligations I speak of. No one else governs these but you. They are your secrets with yourself, your own private counsel. And while nobody throws you a party when you abide by them, no one's going to arrest you when you break them either, except yourself. An honest man's pillow is his peace of mind. And when you lay down on that pillow at night, no matter who's in your bed, we all sleep alone. These are your personal Jiminy Crickets. And there are not enough cops in the entire world to police them. It's on you. A roof is a man-made thing. January the 3rd, 1993 was the NFL playoffs, and your Houston Oilers were playing the Buffalo Bills. The Oilers were up 28-3 at halftime. Frank Reich and the Bills come back to win 41-38 in overtime for one of the greatest comebacks in NFL history. Yeah, the Bills won, but they didn't really beat the Oilers. The Oilers lost that game. They beat themselves. Was it because at halftime they put a ceiling, a roof, a limit on their belief in themselves, aka the prevent defense? Or maybe they started thinking about the next opponent in the playoffs at halftime. I mean, they were up, lost the mental edge the entire second half, and voila, they lost. You ever choked? Stuck your foot in your mouth once you got to the microphone, had a brain freeze on the exam that you were totally prepared for? Now, what happens when we get that feeling? We tense up. We have this sort of outer body experience where we are literally seeing ourselves in the third person, and we realize that the moment just got bigger than us. You ever felt that way? I have. And it's because we have created a fictitious ceiling, a roof, to our expectations of ourselves. A limit where we think it's all too good to be true, but it's not. And it's not our right to say or believe it is. We shouldn't create these restrictions on ourselves. A blue ribbon, a statue, a score, a great idea, the love of our life, a euphoric bliss. Who are we to think that we don't deserve or haven't earned these gifts when we get them? It's not our right. But if we stay in process, all right, within ourselves, in the joy of the doing, we will never choke at the finish line. Why? Because we aren't thinking of the finish line. Because we're not looking at the clock. We're not watching ourselves on the Jumbotron performing the very act that we're in the middle of. No, we're in process. The approach is the destination, and we are never finished. The greatest snipers and marksmen in the world, they don't aim at the target. They aim on the other side of the target. We do our best when our destinations are beyond the measurement. And when we do this, the race is never over. The journey has no port. The adventure never ends because we are always on the way. So do this, and let somebody else come up and tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, you scored. Take the lid off the man-made roofs that we put above ourselves and always play like an underdog.
Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on the notifications so you won't miss the next videos. If you enjoyed listening to this, please hit the like button.